In this tutorial video we're going to demonstrate how to use the Image Effects plugin for Adobe Photoshop. So it's a very simple plugin. It's designed to take all the guesswork out of your image calculations, and it's designed to be able to extract out the appropriate metallic effect to go underneath each different pixel in the image. So it's looking at a hue value of each pixel. So the easiest way to do this is go to the window menu, extensions, and go to the ColorLogic Image Effects plugin. If you've not already loaded it, then please follow our tutorials and guidelines on how to install that plugin. From here, we're going to then, let's move it over here so we can see what's going on at the same time. We're going to open up our channels. So this is just a CMYK file. It could be RGB, CMYK, LAB, it makes no difference. The plugin will calculate the effects. When we click on this button here, it's going to go through and generate the separation, and we'll get the ColorLogic plate. So we can now hide that plugin, so we don't need that anymore. So what it's done is it's gone through and done this calculation for us, and it's looking for shadows and highlights and a whole range of other things. From there, the user would make a mask. So we can't do the masking for you because obviously every image is different. So I'm now going to feather my selection. These are just basic pre-press things. We're going to put a couple of pixels of feathering just to soften the edge of our mask. I'm going to select and inverse my selection, so now selecting all the background, and I'm going to press the delete key. I'm going to delete to white, so I'm getting rid of everything that I no longer want to be metallic. So what we see here in this grey separation, that's actually metallic. Next, I'm going to go and open up my curves, and what we do is we normally, as best practice, is making sure we set the shadow and highlights. It's a little bit like doing scanning in the old scanning days. Highlights is already set, so it's the shadows we really need to be working on. So we're looking for the peak of the data here, so we can push that across, and that will just add a little bit extra metallic pop into this design. So let's just show you before and after. Obviously the darker it is, the more metallic, the lighter it is, the less metallic effect. Okay, from there we're now going to put our CMYK back on, and let's just switch that on and off so you can see the image is darkening down slightly because you're putting that silver ink underneath it, and silver is equivalent to 30% black. So you're adding that colour underneath it is going to dirty it down a little bit. And this is why I recommend leaving some of the colours like these flames in CMYK, because the metallic will actually make these flames look a little bit brighter even though you've done nothing to them, to the actual flames themselves. Okay, from here we could just save the file and that image is now converted. However, we also want to add in a dimensional effect pattern to give this something a little bit extra and a little bit more intriguing for the user to play around with. So I'm going to go into Illustrator, and here I've created a pattern. It's just a seamless pattern. It could be anything you like. It could be text, logos, imagery. I'm just using this geometric pattern. So I'm going to copy that pattern, and I'm now going to go back into Photoshop, and on my CMYK separation layer I'm going to paste that over the top as pixels. So now I have my pattern over the top. Now all I want that pattern for is to be able to make a selection. So place your cursor above this little icon here, and then hold down your command key on the Mac, and it will be control on a PC. Click on it and it will then pick up all those pixels on that layer, and that's all the information that we need. So now we can hide. So I'm just going to do Apple H or Command H to hide that selection, just so we can see what we're doing. I'm now going to go to my eraser tool, and I'm going to set my brush quite large, depending on the size of your image obviously, and I'm now going to go onto my metallic channel, and what we're going to do here, I'll just turn off the CMYK so you can see, we're going to go in and we're going to just basically delete out some of the elements. But notice how we don't want this happening on the wheels, so before we do anything like that you need to take into account your masking around the wheels and anything that you don't want to be affected. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do this quite quickly, and go around here. I'm just going to make a little quick mask, and normally we'd have all this done in advance, but it's always nice to show you in real time what we do, just to prove there's no tricks with what we do with this system. It's all about understanding how metallics work, and knowing whereabouts to place the metallics. Now what we normally recommend is put metallic in the background, but every image is different. So rules are meant to be broken, so it's trial and error. But the reason why we recommend metallics in the background is because when you don't have any light shining on your product, which is typically in the foreground, it will look darker and dull. So if your product is in metallic and you've got no light shining on it, it will look dark and dull, and therefore not words you want associated with your branding. Okay, so we've now made a mask around here. I'm actually just going to go back to I'm actually going to save that. So let's see, save selection. Normally we do everything by keyboard shortcuts, so I'm trying to show you how we do this normally. So there's the alpha channel. Okay, so I can paste that file back over the top like we did before, because we do need that. I shouldn't really have deleted it before. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're just going to select the alpha channel. Let's see if I can get this the right way around. Okay, deselecting from that layer. So I'm now just selecting around that bodywork of the car. And go onto my metallic channel, and I'm going to hide my selection. Go on my paintbrush. So really all we're doing is we're just trying to make sure that we don't obviously do anything over the wheels. So I could just do that across the whole of the image, but it'll look a little bit weird. So what I'm going to show you is I'm just going to do this visually with the 4-color on. So I'm actually just going to use it just to my advantage, just in certain key areas, just to give it a little bit of extra pop. And it's just something as simple as that. So now when we look at our separations, we've got these different tonal regions knocked out of the metallic silver, and that will give us a rather interesting effect. So I'm now going to save that file, and I'm going to save this. Let's make sure I got rid of that. Yes, I did. I'm going to save this as, you could do it as a TIFF, PDF, DCS, whatever format you want, provided it has this spot color box ticked. I'm actually going to do a PDF, because I'm now going to show you what that design would look like in our FX Viewer application software. So I'm just going to do a normal press quality PDF. That's going to save down to my desktop. I can now close that down. Let's get rid of that pattern as well. And I don't need these open. Okay, well, that's fine. And I've got two different screens, so I'm actually just dragging things from my other computer monitor over. So here we go. There's our image effects. Drag that into the FX Viewer. FX Viewer will then open up. And what's happening in the background with the FX Viewer, there's a little miniature rip. It's going to basically rip the file and process that into our rendered design. I'm now going to visualize printing this onto foil as an example. And just to show you how this works, it's a 3D virtual room environment. You can go all the way around. And what we're doing here is we're using it to be able to visualize our design. So you can see it's picking up the color in the metallic in the wheels. We've got that design which is going to be knocked out and have that interesting kind of effect. So it's really just to show you how easy it is to be able to convert your image in metallic, but then add something extra into it to be able to give it a little bit extra kind of effect. But obviously it's down to the designer to choose how they wish to use these tools. But you could imagine maybe a product with a dimensional effect wording knocked out of it, so when you move the print, that wording, that branding pops out and jumps out at you. Or you could use one of our other techniques like a watermark effect to be able to subliminally hide something into the design itself. It's more of a covert rather than an overt effect. So there we go, the image effects plugin visualized in our FX Viewer.